The early morning mist still hung low over the terraced rice fields surrounding Xuan Giang village. The crisp crow of roosters echoed from afar, blending with the scent of kitchen smoke to create a typical peaceful scene of rural Vietnam in the 2000s. Yet, this serene atmosphere felt overshadowed by a gray cloud, lingering ominously, poised to descend like a storm. Mr. Tan, or Levantan as the villagers called him, a man over 60 with a slightly stooped back but still sturdy, stepped out onto his porch. His face was weathered, his deep-set eyes filled with worry. He stood still on the red brick courtyard, where patches of moss clung to the ancient stone well, a silent witness to his family's many ups and downs. Mr. Tan's house, one of the oldest in the region, had stood for generations, belonging to a prominent and respected lineage, the Le clan. Built mainly of limb wood with cracked yin-yang roof tiles, its moss-green color exuded an ancient, melancholic charm, preserving countless memories and dark secrets. Some elders in the village still whispered about the haunted La house, though no one dared to confirm it. It was merely rumored that in the past, strange and convoluted events, even unjust deaths that sent shivers down spines, had occurred here. Today was the family's death anniversary, an important day for the clan. Mr. Tan had prepared the feast early, with his younger brother, Mr. Lamb, helping to arrange the dishes: boiled meat, red sticky rice, and incense spiraling around the courtyard. A makeshift altar was set up on the porch, laden with offerings for their ancestors. Every so often, Mr. Tan would clear his throat, urging everyone to get things in order. Mr. Tan's late wife always carried a pensive air, as if hiding an unspoken, deep-seated pain. Soon, relatives began to arrive, carrying gifts of chickens, ducks, and fruits. The Le clan, with their numerous children, grandchildren, daughters-in-law, and sons-in-law, filled the courtyard with bustling greetings and boisterous chatter. Yet, beneath the surface, an awkwardness lingered. Some old women whispered about past events, about karma and resentment, but they fell silent when Mr. Tan approached the gathering. Hung, Mr. Tan's son, a tall, angular-faced man, had just returned from years of working in the city. Some said Hung had lost his job. Others claimed he was tired of the bustling urban life and wanted to return to his roots. All that was certain was the weariness etched on his face, his restless eyes avoiding his father's gaze. Lone, Hung's younger sister, in her 20s and a primary school teacher in the village, had a gentle face with fair skin and large, thoughtful eyes. Lately, her eyes were slightly shadowed from lack of sleep. Lone kept dreaming of nightmares, waking up startled, yet she couldn't understand why her parents complained. "It's probably because of your brother's mess." Lone only managed a forced smile. The warm atmosphere of the death anniversary stretched into late afternoon. When the ancestral altar was finally arranged, Mr. Tan lit 3 sticks of incense, muttering prayers, inviting the ancestors to witness. The children stood in neat rows. The wind howled softly, making the flame of the oil lamp on the altar flicker, casting long, dancing shadows on the worn brick floor. As the feast began, the women laid out dishes of rice, soup, boiled fish, pork, and sticky rice cakes. The children played noisily in the courtyard, their laughter echoing. But behind the house, isolated from the lively scene, a small shed stood near the fence, untouched by the lamplight. No one wanted to venture there at night, as it was known to house rats, insects, and snakes. "Than, go get your uncle the bucket of water for washing vegetables." Mr. Lamb's voice suddenly broke the quiet. Than, his 17-year-old son, nodded obediently, grabbed a flashlight, and walked towards the back of the house. He mumbled, "It's pitch black out here. Why now? It's like feeling my way through a maze." While everyone was busy chatting, no one noticed Than's unusually prolonged absence. It was Lone who, glancing out, saw his flashlight still flickering at the far end of the garden and gasped. "Has Than been gone that long?" Mr. Lamb and a few others immediately rushed out. They followed the beam of the flashlight lying on the ground. Suddenly, a panicked shriek. Under the dim moonlight, a sight made everyone gasp in terror. Than lay sprawled on the ground, his breath shallow, his face contorted in ultimate fear, as if he had just witnessed something horrific beyond human imagination. "Than, my son?" Mr. Lamb wailed, cradling his child. Mr. Tan and other relatives stiffened. A long silence fell over the clan. Someone quickly placed a hand on Than's chest, then shook their heads slowly, sadly. Than was dead. In the midst of the death anniversary, it was as if a lightning bolt had struck. The entire family descended into chaos. Cries of grief mingled with gasps of horror. Everyone shivered in dread. Around them, the night was thick, the wind rustling the bamboo like mournful sighs. Mr. Tan stood numb, his hands trembling as he clutched his walking stick, his eyes fixed on his nephew's lifeless body. "It's the ghosts! The devils took him!" someone shrieked, their face pale with fear. Those who had been comforting Mr. Lamb were now frozen by the sudden death of his son. No one understood what had happened. Than had merely gone to the shed and a few minutes later lay dead without a single wound, no sign of a struggle. He had left silently, leaving a horrific haunting for those who witnessed it. From that day on, the old village elders would shake their heads and sigh, saying the La family was gravely cursed. The whistling wind and mournful cries seemed to echo the haunting deep within people's hearts. Whispers spread quickly among the relatives, "Perhaps it has returned." The death anniversary, which was supposed to last until late, ended abruptly. Everyone felt a chilling premonition, fearing the dark shadow lurking somewhere. Mr. Tan, though uncertain about the truth of the rumors regarding past karma, found the words replaying in his mind, making his heart heavy as stone. He merely urged everyone to clear things quickly and deal with Than's funeral arrangements. That night, perhaps the only one wide awake was Mr. Tan, grappling with the vague memories he had tried to bury for so many years. Xuan Giang village was submerged in the early morning mist, devoid of the previous day's lively commotion. Than's death had cast a heavy pall over the surroundings. The La family busied themselves with funeral preparations, while neighbors offered condolences, their eyes and sighs filled with bewilderment. Why had a strong, healthy young man suddenly passed away without a word of warning? The funeral proceeded hastily under a somber sky. Mr. Tan stood by Than's coffin, his heart a storm of grief mixed with guilt. He felt as though some invisible hand of injustice had struck his family. The first to die, would there be others? Mr. Lamb, Than's father, had aged overnight, his face sunken, his eyes hollow. His choked sobs and the comforting murmurs filled the courtyard as they prepared to take Than's body to the village cemetery for burial. For many, this bright, cool morning felt obscured by a thick curtain of mist. Just as the funeral procession was about to depart, a tall, slender, elegant middle-aged man appeared at the gate. He wore a hat and a long coat that reached his knees, carrying an intricately carved walking stick. Rumor had it that he was a renowned geomancer and spiritual master in the region, skilled in feng shui and house blessings. Mr. Tan recognized Master Fong as an old acquaintance. Master Fong had once helped the La family choose land for their ancestral tomb and performed several rituals, earning Mr. Tan's trust. Now, Master Fong's presence was likely due to news of the funeral or perhaps a professional premonition. "My deepest condolences to your family. I heard the sad news and came. This situation is strange indeed. Allow me to offer what little help I can," Master Fong said. Mr. Tan only nodded, his voice hoarse. "Please make yourself at home. Things are a mess." Master Fong's gaze swept across the courtyard, pausing at the house where a temporary altar stood. He noticed the hastily set up incense burner, still smoldering. His face furrowed, as if sensing something amiss. "Perhaps I should inspect the house after the funeral. I fear there's something wrong with the dragon's pulse or the yin energy here." Mr. Tan didn't question much, merely nodded. At this point, he was exhausted from the funeral preparations, too distraught to even wonder. Master Fong's presence, however, made him feel less alone in the face of the storm he sensed was yet to come. After Than's funeral, the family returned home, weary. The late afternoon sky was thick with gray clouds, and the air was heavy with dampness. Everyone, exhausted, retreated to their rooms. Mr. Lamb, haunted by his son's death, was like a ghost, wrapped in a thin blanket, unable to eat. Mr. Tan went to his private room, where he kept many family records and genealogies. The flickering oil lamp cast pale yellow streaks on the walls. An ancient, worn book lay quietly on a shelf. Mr. Tan's trembling hand reached for it, his heart pounding as if trying to escape his chest. The yellowed page bore the faded words, "La family genealogy." Mr. Tan's mind drifted back to a distant memory. As a child, He had heard his grandmother speak of a curse related to a family in the village during land reform or wartime. He only vaguely remembered the details, but rumors said the La family back then had caused the deaths of several people by seizing their land and property. Before closing their eyes, the wronged victims had uttered a deadly curse. Blood for blood, may you never find peace. In those days, the rumors had circulated among the villagers. Mr. Tan grew up choosing to forget, to ignore them. But now, it seemed the curse was resurfacing, manifesting through Than's death. He stood frozen, staring at the genealogy book, asking himself, is this the time I must confront my ancestors' history, or should I continue to avoid it like those before me? The haunting clung to him like an invisible chain, perhaps linking him to the mistakes of previous generations. Meanwhile, Lone was in her own room, lying on her creaking wooden bed. Exhausted, she closed her eyes, but the tragic image of Than remained vivid. Despite her grief, Lone felt her blood run cold. Earlier that evening, when lighting incense to bid farewell to Than, she had felt a cold wind brush past her ear, whispering, "Still not enough." She had started, turning around, but saw no one. Now the wind blew in cold gusts. In her fitful sleep, Lone dreamt she was standing in a vast, empty expanse, shrouded in thick white mist. From afar, a figure in a long white robe walked unsteadily towards her. A faint, intermittent moan echoed, a chilling sound in the gray, dreary mist. Lone tried to speak, but her throat was choked, her voice trapped. The figure's pale, hollow eyes stared intensely at Lone, its voice whispering, "Blood, still not enough." The white shadow vanished into the mist, leaving Lone collapsing, her heart pounding erratically, her forehead drenched in sweat. Her mouth was dry. The distant crow of roosters and the children's indistinguishable shouts in the courtyard only intensified her terror. Blood still not enough. What did that mean? The next morning, Mr. Tan invited Master Fong to stay for a meal, and then to examine the house. Master Fong went through every part of the house, from the ancestral altar in the front to the back living quarters, including the shed where the incident occurred. The courtyard was silent today, bearing only the desolate aftermath of the funeral. Master Fong nodded, occasionally furrowing his brow as if measuring something in the air. Finally, he stopped before the old moss-covered stone well. Master Fong gently touched the well's edge, then closed his eyes for a moment. A chill wind rose, making him shiver. The yin energy is too strong. I fear there's a wandering spirit haunting this house. Of course, if no one believes me, so be it, but if it's true, it's very dangerous. Mr. Tan's heart leaped, but he tried to remain calm. Is there any way to resolve this? First, you must be sincere. I advise you to let me examine the ancestral tomb, or at least tell me its location. I want to ensure there's no intrusion into the dragon's pulse. Then we will perform a ritual to appease them. Mr. Tan pressed his lips together, silent for a moment. The La family's ancestral tomb lay in the village cemetery, home to generations of the clan. Since becoming the head of the family, Mr. Tan had often visited to light incense, but he had never imagined having to delve into the horrifying mysteries surrounding it. The image of his dead nephew from last night reappeared, reminding him that time was short. All right, I'll take you to the ancestral tomb. But, since ancient times, the La family has never dared to investigate if there was anything unusual beneath it. There are rumors that this land originally belonged to another family before we claimed it. His voice faltered, not daring to continue. Master Fong nodded slightly, understanding. Then we must examine it even more carefully. Prepare the offerings. We must go early before it's too late. While Mr. Tan and Master Fong were discussing matters outside the house, Lone was inside, standing by the altar. Than's photo, temporarily placed there, seemed to radiate a faint sadness from his young face. Lone bowed her head, tears falling gently, her heart aching with lingering grief. The dim light made the altar room gloomy, as if she could hear the old wooden house itself sigh. Suddenly, Lone heard a very faint scratching sound at the wooden door. She lifted her head, but saw no one. The scratching sound repeated, like someone's fingernails dragging across the wood. A wave of cold spread through her body. Lone swallowed hard, trembling, looking towards the door. She grasped the doorknob tightly. A gust of wind suddenly blew strongly through the gap in the door, making the oil lamp on the altar flicker and then abruptly go out. The entire space plunged into darkness. In that instant, Lone felt as if a shadow brushed past her shoulder. She shrieked, turning around, but the room was empty. Only the wind howled. Yet Lone was sure she had seen the corner of a white robe vanish behind the old cabinet. A bone-chilling cold enveloped her, her heart pounding like a war drum. Was it Than's ghost, or another spirit? She stumbled backward, groping for the table to steady herself. Her vision blurred, sweat pouring down her forehead. This was the first time Lone had directly felt such an intense chill. Perhaps somewhere nearby, the dead were not at peace. A thought flashed across her mind. Hung returned from outside, seeing Lone gasping for breath, her face deathly pale. He rushed to her. "What's wrong? Did you fall?" Lone only shook her head, unable to speak, her eyes wide with terror, sending a shiver down Hung's spine. He helped her up, guiding her to a chair and finding some warm water for her to drink. Lone didn't explain clearly, but from her expression, Hung understood something horrific had happened. When Mr. Tan and Master Fong returned, Lone quickly recounted everything to her father. Mr. Tan shivered slightly, clenching his fists, his mind filled with new suspicions. Could it be true, the rumors that the La family is cursed? He looked at Master Fong. The geomancer sighed and shook his head. It's not that simple. Ancient karma still exists. It definitely hasn't been resolved. The four of them sat together on the porch, the evening wind biting. Mr. Tan, as the head of the clan, had no choice but to admit, at least partially, to his suspicions regarding the family's land and ancestral tomb. No one had ever spoken clearly about ancient times, but everyone vaguely felt that Than's cause of death was more than mere coincidence. "Master Fong, please help my family. I truly fear that if we delay, more lives will be lost." "All right, tomorrow afternoon we will go to the ancestral tomb. We must carefully examine the terrain there, then decide the next steps. Prepare offerings, incense, flowers, sticky rice, chicken, and some charms. There are signs of a very powerful, vengeful spirit, difficult to put to rest." At that moment, the sun was slowly setting, and darkness crept over the rural area. Only the chirping of crickets echoed, as if calling. The La family closed their doors, each retreating to their rooms. Lone's heart was still filled with dread, wondering if she would hear strange sounds or encounter another ghost tonight. Mr. Tan retreated into a quiet remorse, certain that this was just the beginning of a nightmare. The sky, gray and mist-covered from early morning, signaled another gloomy day for Xuan Giang village. Cold gusts of wind blew from the fields, chilling the back of the La family's house. 2 days had passed since Than's funeral, and the somber atmosphere still lingered around the old house. In a small room at the back of the house, Levan Hung awoke from a suffocating dream, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding erratically. Since returning to the village, Hung had been plagued by strange dreams almost every night. Distant wailing, the blurred face of a woman hiding behind the old banyan tree, and cold hands touching his shoulder. Hung looked around. The faint light filtering through the window slit illuminated the whitewashed walls, now mottled with moss and unpleasant dampness. For 2 days, Hung had tried to appear calm in front of his father and sister, but anxiety gnawed at him. Deep down, Hung felt he was also hiding a mistake related to what had happened. For 5 years in the city, he had been involved in work his family could probably never imagine. He avoided it all by returning to the village, as if guilt could be washed away by a change of scenery. A soft sigh escaped him. "Lone, everything has just begun." The whispered words echoed in his subconscious, haunting him. That morning, Mr. Tan and Master Fong agreed to meet at the village cemetery to examine the ancestral tomb. However, Mr. Lam was severely distraught after Than's death, so Mr. Tan decided to stay and help with arrangements at home. They decided to postpone their visit until late afternoon. "Mr. Tan, I will only look around the area, not disturb the grave. This evening, you and a few relatives can come. We will discuss it in detail." Mr. Tan mumbled in agreement, his face haggard from sleepless nights. "Master Fong, is there really a vengeful spirit haunting my family?" "Spiritual matters are not easily explained, but one thing I am sure of, the yin energy at your house, Mr. Tan, is very strong. I suspect that in the past, the La family incurred a deep resentment and karma is now at play. It's not unreasonable." Then Master Fong donned his hat and quietly cycled away. Mr. Tan returned to the main house, his heart heavy, as Master Fong's words brought back memories of the blood for blood curse his father had once mentioned years ago. The past seemed to loom over the present, a sudden entanglement for the entire clan. At midday, Lone was sitting in a corner of the house, peeling garlic, when a rooster suddenly ran wildly into the courtyard, crowing loudly in broad daylight. The high-pitched, eerie crow was unusually prolonged, sending shivers down her spine. A crow in broad daylight, her grandmother used to say it was an ill omen. Sweat beaded on her temples as she tried to shake off a vague sense of dread. However, a thought flashed across her mind. Is something bad about to happen? Lone didn't believe in groundless spiritual matters, but now she herself had witnessed it, and the eerie occurrences at night, Than's sudden death, couldn't be explained by ordinary means. Were these fragmented pieces now aligning to form a terrifying picture of the karma her family was bearing? Just as Lone was about to stand up, she heard a faint hacking sound from the kitchen. Startled, she rushed out. Mr. Lamb was aimlessly chopping firewood with a knife, his face pale, his eyes hollow. Lone gently touched his arm. "Uncle, what are you doing?" Mr. Lamb stopped, turning to look at Lone, then stared blankly. "I'm just chopping wood, my child. Don't worry, I'm fine. It's just... Than seemed to come back yesterday. He told me he was cold. He said he was in a very dark place." Mr. Lamb resumed his chopping, staring into space, leaving Lone speechless, only able to offer comfort. Poor Mr. Lamb, having lost his only son, was like a soulless shell, muttering about hearing Than's voice all day. As afternoon faded, gray clouds drifted across the sky. Master Fong returned to Mr. Tan's house. They prepared offerings, incense, flowers, candles, and white wine to take to the cemetery. Hung and Lone also decided to go, determined to uncover the truth. Around 5 p.m., the four of them passed through the village gate, following the dirt path that led to the cemetery mound. The chirping of frogs and crickets filled the air, and distant bamboo rustled faintly. Weak lamplight illuminated leaning gravestones. Xuan Giang Cemetery was desolate, few people visited. The La family's ancestral tomb lay on a high plot of land, its stone stele carved with ancient hand characters, surrounded by weeds and reeds. As they approached the grave, an owl suddenly flew up, hooting, making Lone shriek in terror, clutching Hung's arm as if fearing a strange wind. "Mr. Tan, is this your ancestral tomb?" "Yes, master." They began to clear the weeds around the tomb and arrange the offerings on a stone slab near the grave. Master Fong lit the incense, muttering a few prayers. Before he could complete the ritual, an eerie sound suddenly echoed, causing everyone to stiffen. A rustling in the bushes, as if someone was walking nearby. Hung quickly turned on his flashlight, sweeping it around, but saw no one. The wind picked up, making the reeds rustle, creating a chilling sound. Master Fong furrowed his brow, continuing his prayers, but this time his voice faltered. A cold draft rose from the ground, enveloping their feet. A shiver ran down their spines. "We have a visitor," Master Fong whispered, signaling everyone to step back. As soon as he spoke, a terrifying shriek pierced the air from behind the graves. Everyone quickly turned their flashlights. Their eyes all stopped at a body sprawled at the foot of a neglected tombstone. It was a woman, her clothes disheveled, her hair tangled. Lone shrieked in horror, clutching Hung's hand. Mr. Tan froze. The group rushed to check. Master Fong carefully placed 2 fingers on the victim's neck but felt only coldness. The person had died before they could arrive. When they shined the light closer, Hung gasped. "Hoa, why is Hoa here?" Lathai Hoa, a distant relative of Hung, lived in a neighboring village and occasionally visited Mr. Tan's house to help with chores. No one expected her to die mysteriously in this desolate cemetery. Their hands and feet felt numb. It seemed the nightmare was repeating itself for the La family. 2 deaths had now occurred. Hoa's face was still etched with horror, her hands clenched as if clutching something. Master Fong, mustering all his courage, gently opened her hand and found a small piece of white cloth stained with mud, of unknown origin. Even stranger, there were scratch marks on the ground next to Hoa's body, as if she had struggled before dying. "Another one," Lone muttered, her legs trembling. No one understood why Hoa was in the cemetery at this deserted hour. Had she heard or seen something unusual and come to investigate, or had the La family's vengeful spirits lured her here? Mr. Tan stood frozen, his heart pounding erratically. Karma. 2 against 2. the words echoed in his mind, as if the spirit was fulfilling its cold-blooded threat. Life for a life. Hung and Master Fong frantically ran towards the village, shouting for help regarding Hoa's body. Lone knelt beside Hoa, tears streaming down her face, clutching her clothes. This was the second time in just 2 days that a relative had died mysteriously. By now, darkness was fully descending, the dim light making the cemetery even more eerie. When everyone returned, they temporarily lit a lamp by the grave. A group of young men quickly came to carry Hoa's body on a stretcher out of the cemetery. Before leaving, Master Fong once again offered prayers, lighting incense on the ancestral tomb. He didn't forget to remind Mr. Tan. Mr. Tan, today's events are clear enough. Vengeful spirits are disturbing our family. We must find the root of the ancient evil. If we don't act quickly, it will be too late. Mr. Tan nodded, his eyes filled with extreme dread, as if he had no way out. The continuous deaths were perhaps just the beginning. The news of Hoa's death spread like wildfire through the village, causing a stir. Some whispered that the La family was cursed, and surely more deaths would follow. These rumors, like adding fuel to a fire, isolated Mr. Tan's family. Neighbors avoided their house, no one dared to come close. Mr. Lam, despite Hoa not being his immediate family, was almost distraught. He kept wailing, "They took them all, they took them all." He then curled up in a corner, fear separating people, as if a dark shadow enveloped the old house. Only those brave enough remained, all drinking water, especially as dusk settled. That night, as everyone was exhausted and asleep, Lone suddenly heard a sound in the living room. She carefully grabbed her flashlight and crept out. The flashlight beam swept across the dusty, mossy walls. Lone's eyes widened in terror. On the wall, where a cobweb had been, was a long, thin, human-shaped indentation, like a screaming face. She blinked, but the indentation remained, cold and grotesque. Suddenly, a white shadow flashed down the hallway. Lone quickly shone her flashlight, only seeing the front door drenched in water. She rushed towards it, but her feet suddenly felt stuck to the floor, fear gripping her heart, making her gasp. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Don't come here," a haunting whisper echoed in her ears like a dying voice. Lone's legs stiffened. She took a few hesitant steps, then threw open the door. The courtyard was pitch black. A shadowy figure placed an oil lamp by the window, flickering as if about to go out. The faint scratching sound repeated, exactly like the one she heard earlier by Than's altar. Lone quickly shone her flashlight into every corner of the room, then gasped as she noticed a trail of water on the wooden floor, stretching to the window as if someone wet had walked through. She pressed her lips together. Drowned? No, Hoa died at the cemetery. So whose water trail was this? The chilling sensation enveloped Lone, preventing her from staying. She stumbled back, slammed the door, and rushed back to her room, her heart pounding. The next morning, Lone found Master Fong and recounted everything. He frowned upon hearing her story. Where was this water? Did it smell strange? Lone shook her head. She hadn't dared to smell it closely, only saw it stretching to the window, as if someone came in from outside or went out from inside. Master Fong then told her, "My divination showed strong signs of vengeful spirits, not just one, but potentially many. In other words, it's possible an entire family, wronged in death, is returning. They are carrying a curse, determined to seek revenge." Hearing this, Lone shivered, thinking of the dark period in Xuan Giang village's history, when the La family had seized land from another family, causing that entire family to die in bitter resentment. If this curse truly existed, then Hoa and Than were merely the prelude to the revenge. That afternoon, Lone quietly went into her father's room. Mr. Tan usually hid the old family genealogy book there. Lone's forehead was slick with sweat, fearing discovery. Flipping through the pages, she only saw scribbled notes about ancestors from generations past, vague until she touched a thin, folded piece of paper hidden deep within the cover. Pulling the paper out, she saw it was a yellowed fragment of hand script, its edges torn. A few words stood out to her. 5 lives. Oath of blood. Her face paled, her heart pounding erratically. Clearly, there was a clue about 5 lives harmed in the past. Could it be that the vengeful spirits needed to claim 5 lives from the La family before they would stop? Lone quickly folded the paper, deciding to ask her father and Master Fong about it, but she was afraid. What if this touched upon a horrible truth she wasn't brave enough to face? Her despair grew. Than died, Hoa died. Who would be next? Mr. Lamb, Hung, or even herself. The thought sent shivers down her spine, tormenting her, but she had no one to share it with. The sun sank behind the bamboo grove, yielding to the encroaching darkness over Xuan Giang village. The full moon cast no light on the house. 2 consecutive deaths, coupled with strange occurrences, made any sound easily startling. The next day, under heavy pressure from the clan and village gossip, Mr. Tan decided to follow Master Fong's advice and perform a ritual to cleanse the ill omens. A few brave relatives stayed to help arrange the altar in the front yard. Sticky rice, chicken, betel nuts, white wine, incense, candles, charms, everything was laid out on a simple wooden table next to the old stone well, rumored to be haunted. Dark clouds gathered in the sky and the wind blew mournfully. The chirping of insects and frogs fell silent, as if holding their breath. Master Fong murmured prayers, his voice low and solemn, accompanied by the gentle ringing of a small bell. Lone and Hung hid behind the door, occasionally peeking out. They could clearly feel the unease seeping into the atmosphere. As the last candle on the altar burned brightly, illuminating every crease on Master Fong's focused face, he sprinkled salt around the yard, rubbed lime on the house pillars, and recited a long chant. The wind grew stronger, making the candles flicker violently. Whistling sounds, like birds soaring past, sent shivers down Master Fong's spine. He repeatedly struck the air with a rattan whip, shouting, "Retreat! Retreat!" It was unclear what he was driving away, but his tense expression made it clear. "No one move, a spirit is here." As soon as he finished speaking, an unusually cold gust of wind swept through the courtyard, extinguishing all 3 candles simultaneously, plunging the yard into darkness. Lone's heart pounded, her limbs felt weak. Hung was about to rush out to help, but Mr. Tan held him back, gesturing for him to stay still in the dark. A chilling, eerie laugh echoed, its source unclear. It was a laugh like a cry, like a mad spirit from the void. A cold voice spoke, "Still not enough blood." Master Fong trembled, clenching his fists. He tried to compose himself and continue chanting, but his mouth stammered, unable to form words. Immediately, an invisible force slammed into him, knocking him to the red brick floor, his hat flying off. The offerings of sticky rice and chicken scattered. Panicked screams erupted as some relatives fled in disarray. "It's the ghost!" someone shrieked, ditching their sandals and running towards the village. In an instant, the entire courtyard seemed to become a scene of chaos. Candles, lamps, and incense fell. Mr. Tan, horrified, stumbled, his eyes wide, staring into the darkness. He thought he saw a blurred, long-haired figure swaying in the wind. Then the shadow vanished, leaving only the howling wind through the old roof tiles. The panic reached its peak when Hung suddenly collapsed, convulsing. His eyes rolled back and foam appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Hung! Hung!" his terrified relatives cried, not daring to approach. Master Fong slowly rose, bruised. "It's too late, don't come near him." Suddenly, Hung sprang up as if resurrected. His hand snatched Master Fong's rattan whip, snapping it in 2. His eyes were blank, white, and his voice, rough and deep, commanded, "The vengeful spirits have not stopped. It's not over yet." Master Fong broke out in a cold sweat. He realized Hung was possessed. He stumbled back, raising his hands in a defensive posture, then demanded, "What do you want? Don't harm the innocent." Hung let out a contemptuous laugh, bending over as if about to break in half. His voice changed, hoarse and disjointed. "The whole family must pay." He then uttered a long, incomprehensible stream of words, making the vengeful spirit's cries like water flowing, tears streaming. Mr. Tan and a few other men tried to rush forward to restrain Hung, but as soon as they approached, Hung swept his arm powerfully, sending them flying back. His strength was superhuman now, as if possessed. The chaotic scene continued for a few minutes until Hung shrieked, "I will die," and then collapsed unconscious on the ground. The wailing screams lingering in everyone's ears carried a bone-chilling coldness from the spirit. The cleansing ritual ended, leaving behind a devastated scene of scattered offerings. Master Fong's face was also bruised and battered. Mr. Tan sat on the ground, defeated. Lone knelt beside her brother, sobbing. The cleansing ritual had failed miserably. Instead of appeasing the spirits, the vengeful spirits had shown their terrifying power, leaving a stern warning: the entire family must pay. No one dared to speculate what future deaths awaited them. At midnight, Hung lay delirious on the bed, his breath shallow. Lone and Mr. Tan took turns sitting beside him, wiping his sweat, fearing he might have another seizure. Master Fong slowly entered, his face pale, hair disheveled. "I'm sorry. The vengeful spirit is too strong. My ritual was useless." "What do we do now?" "Master Fong, there's only one way. We must find out exactly who was wronged in the past, where that wronged family was buried. Then we must perform a proper ancestral appeasement ceremony." Master Fong said, his voice filled with remorse. "We must sincerely repent and beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, the La family's descendants will continue to die, one by one." Lone's face turned pale and she shivered, recalling the words on the old paper. 5 lives. 2 had already died, 3 more remained. Who would be the next victim? A suffocating sensation gripped her. That night, a drizzle fell softly. The La family's doors were shut with someone always awake, as no one dared to sleep soundly. Around midnight, while Lone was keeping watch over Hung, she suddenly heard sobbing from the porch. A faint, mournful, intermittent cry that sent goosebumps down her arms. Half wanting to investigate, half terrified, Lone slowly rose. She didn't open the door fully, but peered through the window slit. The flickering oil lamp on the porch illuminated the pale white back of a woman. It wasn't her mother had passed away long ago. It wasn't anyone from the house, as everyone wore dark-colored clothes. Lone felt a creeping dread. Who was this woman? She tried to get a clearer look, but the light was too dim. Suddenly, the woman started, turning around to reveal a ghostly white face with hollow, soulless eyes. Lone's hair stood on end, her limbs weak, unable to scream. The woman's gaze pierced Lone, radiating immense sorrow mixed with deep resentment. Before Lone could react, the figure vanished as if dissolving into the night. Only the rhythmic tapping of rain on the roof and the rustling bamboo remained. Lone stumbled back into her room, her heart pounding. She understood. That spirit was one of the wronged souls, most likely the murdered mother or the widowed wife. Who knew? She only knew that terror was tightening its grip on her family. The next morning, Hung regained consciousness, though his eyes were still distant, less confident. Lone decided to tell her father and Hung about the old paper she found in the genealogy book. Hesitantly, she presented it, her hands trembling. Mr. Tan took it, his face instantly paling. "This paper, I thought it was lost long ago. This is my great-aunt's writing. It details the curse and the sin of that era." Mr. Tan slowly explained, unveiling the past for the first time. During the land reform period, a greedy branch of the La family had falsely accused and seized land from a family named Tran, causing the entire Tran family to be publicly shamed, even driven out of the village, dying slowly. Rumors said 5 members of the Tran family had died unjustly: an elderly couple, their son, their pregnant daughter-in-law, and their young grandson. Before her death, the daughter-in-law had uttered a blood curse, vowing to claim 5 lives from the La clan in return. The paper clearly stated that the remains of the Tran family must be exhumed, given a separate burial, and offerings made to apologize. Only then would the vengeful spirits find peace. Mr. Tan's voice choked. "I hesitated for too long, fearing judgment. Who knew?" Mr. Tan was now bowing his head in remorse. Lone and Hung listened in stunned silence. "We must find their remains," Hung's voice was hoarse. "But where were they buried? Perhaps in the old ancestral tomb? The rumors said our family occupied their land, then moved our ancestral tomb on top." The pieces clicked into place. The ancestral tomb was actually the Tran family's land. The La family had, intentionally or unintentionally, buried their relatives on top of the victims' bones. For too long, resentment had accumulated, exploding only now. The 2 recent deaths were merely the prelude. To escape, they had to open the ancestral tomb, separate the remains, build a separate tomb for the wronged spirits, and perform an appeasement ritual. That afternoon, Mr. Tan gathered Master Fong and a few trusted relatives. Everyone who heard about disturbing the ancestral tomb was horrified, as it was a great taboo, an offense to ancestors. But with their families' lives threatened, everyone had no choice but to agree. "We will dig at night to avoid village gossip," Mr. Tan said firmly. "I will bear all the disrespect. I only wish to save my children and grandchildren." Hung, his face haggard from exhaustion, stepped forward. "I will go with you, father." Lone bit her lip. The previous night's vision of the weeping woman had terrified her, but she also wanted to end this nightmare so her family could find peace. She nodded. I will go too. We must resolve this quickly before they take more lives. Master Fong sighed, outlining the preparations. Lamps, offerings, burlap, shovels, flashlights, and protective talismans. Everything had to be ready, as exhuming an ancestral tomb at night was extremely dangerous, not only due to fear of ghosts, but also because the vengeful spirits would become even more furious when disturbed. Mr. Tan looked at the pale, drawn faces of everyone. We might have to gamble with our lives, he warned, but there's no other way. If we don't act, the 5 lives curse will come true. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Everyone understood the high price they might have to pay. Outside the window, the sky glowed with the yellow of sunset, dyeing the distant horizon, while the wind rustled the bamboo, like whispered warnings. Karma is not over yet. Night fell, enveloping Xuan Giang village in a thick atmosphere of mist and dread. Since the cleansing ritual failed, the La family seemed imprisoned in a dark, inescapable shadow. Whispers spread that evil spirits were rampant, demanding lives, the 5 lives, curse haunting every mind. At this point, the family would carry out a daring plan, digging up the ancestral tomb. In the main house, Mr. Tan, Hung, Lone, Master Fong, and 2 trusted relatives Uncle Khai and Bang gathered around a dim oil lamp. The atmosphere was heavy, no one dared to speak loudly. On the brick floor lay various tools, shovels, crowbars, flashlights, plastic sheets, some large nails, and protective charms. Occasionally, a gust of wind rattled the window, like someone sighing softly. We will leave at 10 p.m., Mr. Tan said, his voice weary but resolute, to avoid being discovered by the villagers, who might misunderstand and judge us. Master Fong nodded, stroking his beard. I have prepared the prayers to ask permission to open the tomb, hoping that the ancestors of the La family, as well as the wronged spirits, will allow us to find the remains and resolve the injustice. You all must stay strong and not panic, lest your fear give more power to the vengeful spirits. Hung sat quietly, his face pale from his recent possession. The lingering purple shadows around his eyes and the chilling sensation of something alien taking over his body still terrified him. Yet, he was determined to accompany his father, to atone for the family's past sins. Lone felt a knot in her stomach, unable to believe that in such a short time, her family had fallen into this struggle with evil spirits. Looking at her father and brother, she vowed to herself, even if I die, I must end this curse. Precisely at 10 p.m., the group silently set out, without torches or lamps, each holding a flashlight to light their way to the village gate. The sky was dark, the stars hidden behind gray clouds. The dirt path leading to the cemetery was uneven and desolate. Every step they took was hesitant, yet their hearts were resolute. The silent night, the leaning gravestones, stood still against the misty sky. Weeds swayed like lurking ghosts. They passed through rows of old graves, heading towards the high ground where the La family's ancestral tomb was located. It took only about 10 minutes, but everyone felt as if hours had passed. Shine the light, Master Fong whispered. Mr. Tan slowly approached, kneeling before the ancestral tombstone. His trembling hands lit 3 sticks of incense, praying, Ancestors, wronged spirits, I humbly ask permission to disturb the ancestral tomb to cleanse the injustice and save my descendants. If you are divine, please show us the way. As soon as he finished praying, a strong gust of wind howled, scattering the surrounding weeds and reeds. Hung and Lone exchanged glances, their hearts pounding. Uncle Khai and Bang trembled but stood ready with shovels. Bang's flashlight beam flickered on the ground. They began to dig around the tomb, looking for traces of a coffin. The earth was hard-packed. After digging a short distance, their shovels hit roots and rocks. Master Fong carefully took a piece of yellow paper, pasted it on the tombstone, and murmured a chant to suppress the yin energy. About 15 minutes later, Uncle Kai's shovel struck something hard. Everyone stopped, shining their flashlights. They saw the edge of a decayed wooden coffin, and a wave of damp, stale, rotting smell rose. Everyone shivered. Whose remains are these? Our ancestors or the victims? Lone tightly gripped her flashlight, trembling. We must find out, Mr. Tan replied, gritting his teeth. Bang quickly used a crowbar to pry open the rotten wooden lid, revealing the inside of the old coffin with scattered, broken bones. Everyone held their breath, looking down. The flashlight revealed a few pieces of dark brown, rotten cloth mingled with skulls, leg bones, and arm bones. A chill ran down their spines. These were likely the remains of the wronged Tran family. A faint whisper, like a breath of wind or the murmur of a spirit, echoed. They continued to dig around, searching for another coffin. Master Fong whispered, as if fearing to awaken an evil entity. Sweat poured down Mr. Tan and Hung's faces. As they dug, they felt as if they heard faint sobbing. Finally, just half a meter down, Bang's shovel hit another layer of wood. Everyone gasped. Another coffin, buried one on top of the other. They frantically dug away the soil, their flashlights revealing a small, decayed wooden coffin, its lid broken and crumbling. A piece of white cloth remained on the lid. Master Fong took a deep breath. It's highly likely these are the remains of the wronged Tran family. The La family back then probably buried them underneath to claim the land above as their ancestral tomb. Hung's hands trembled, and he took a few steps back, overwhelmed by sorrow and guilt. Tears streamed down Lone's face, a bitter empathy for the unfortunate souls. Just as the group was trying to pry open the small coffin, a sudden thud. Everyone turned around. Uncle Khai lay on his back, his eyes wide, flashlight beams still on his pale face. Bang frantically tried to help him up, shouting, "Uncle, Uncle, what's wrong?" Uncle Kai's mouth opened as if to speak, but only choked gasps came out. Then the coffin lid fell back into place. Master Fong knelt, placing his hand on Uncle Kai's chest, his voice panicked. "No, no heartbeat, he's gone." A heart-wrenching wail tore through the dark night, tears flowing. A third member of the La family had died right before their eyes. The third death had struck like fate. Everyone was terrified, disoriented. Mr. Tan trembled, clinging to the shovel, muttering incoherently, "Oh God, Karma, please have mercy on us. My child, go find someone to take the body." Lone screamed. Hung turned to run, but a chilling, ghostly wind suddenly howled through the cemetery. He fell, tumbling into the grave pit. The flashlight beams swung wildly. For an instant, he felt a freezing cold penetrate his body, as if hundreds of invisible hands were pulling at him. Mr. Tan and Lone frantically pulled him out of the pit. Hung's face was purple, his breathing shallow, but he was still conscious. Next to him, Uncle Khai lay cold, his eyes still wide open. The group was on the verge of chaos, yet they had to finish the remaining work. Master Fong, trembling, tied some talismans to the lid of the small coffin, chanting spells. When they finally pried open the lid, everyone shone their flashlights inside. Broken, jumbled bones were visible, sending shivers down their spines. There was also a small white cloth, like a swaddling cloth for an infant. The story of the Tran family, of the pregnant daughter-in-law and the young grandson, unfolded before their eyes tragically. As Lone touched the cloth, she suddenly felt a cold gust of wind pierce her from shoulder to foot, and a very faint, choked sobbing echoed in her mind. My child! My child!" Lone burst into tears, dropping the cloth, turning to Mr. Tan. "Father, we are so evil. Our own ancestors buried them here to steal their land." Mr. Tan didn't answer. He simply collapsed, his head bowed to the ground as if kowtowing, continuously muttering, "Please forgive us." The atmosphere was thick with grief. Uncle Kai's body lay there, the funeral wreath not yet placed, but the pain was layered, as if reminding them. A cold gust of wind cut through the night. "If you are afraid," Master Fong choked out, "bring these remains home. Arrange them and perform a mass for the dead. We must atone quickly, or more lives will be lost." A quick decision was made. They used the white cloth to carefully wrap the bones from the small coffin, preserving them to bring back. When Uncle Kai's body was wrapped in a tarp, no one expected that after a night of disturbance, they would be bringing back two bodies. One, a newly deceased La family member, and the other, the wronged spirit's remains. Their weary steps left the cemetery, heavy with sorrow. They held the bundle of bones, feeling lost. Mr. Tan mourned Uncle Khai, tears streaming. Lone and Master Fong helped each other walk ahead. No one dared to look back. They knew that behind them, rows of vengeful spirits were clawing, demanding blood. After the tearful exhumation, the old La house fell into an even heavier atmosphere than before. The dead, the bones of the wronged, and the uncertainty of the future, everything created a sense of despair, mentally exhausting every family member. At dawn, the group carried Uncle Kai's body home, placing it temporarily in the side room. News quickly spread through the village. Everyone was stunned. In just a few days, 3 people had died. The La family is truly haunted. Surely more will die. The rumors grew more terrifying, spreading fear not just among the family, but also in the neighborhood. Despite their grief, Mr. Tan and Hung were busy with Uncle Kai's funeral arrangements. They called upon relatives to help set up the temporary altar in the front yard to bid farewell to the deceased. But fearing contamination by the evil spirits, many came for a moment, then quickly excused themselves, not daring to stay long. On the temporary altar, candles flickered. Uncle Kai's image in the photo made Lone's heart ache. She couldn't stop blaming herself. If they hadn't disturbed the grave, Uncle Kai wouldn't have died. But if they hadn't, the curse would have continued. Her mind was torn between 2 opposing thoughts. In a small, enclosed room at the back of the house, Master Fong and Mr. Tan had wrapped the remains found at the cemetery and placed them on a table. They covered it with a white cloth, surrounded by offerings of flowers and a bowl of clean water. In the sacred atmosphere, Master Fong began to pray, humbly asking the wronged spirits for permission to sort the bones and prepare for the appeasement ritual. When he lifted the cloth, Mr. Tan saw fragments of bones, small bone chips, and especially the piece of white cloth that had wrapped a baby in ancient times. All of it felt like daggers in his heart. "Oh God," Mr. Tan cried out, a sob escaping him, remembering the story of the Tran family's daughter-in-law, persecuted while pregnant. Master Fong exhaled sharply. "We must perform a mass for the child and the entire Tran family. This cannot be delayed, but the resentment has accumulated for too long. I fear a single ceremony won't be enough to resolve it." So what do we do? First, we must invite the descendants of the wronged family, or at least their relatives, to witness the appeasement. Only when the perpetrator's family sincerely kneels and apologizes before the victim's descendants can the vengeful spirits find peace. Mr. Tan froze, bewildered. Are there any descendants of the Tran family still alive, or have they all died long ago? In his vague memories, he only knew a few had relocated far away, perhaps even changing their names. After Uncle Kai's funeral, Hung became unusually quiet. He had moments of profound silence, staring blankly at the courtyard, his eyes hollow. No one knew what he was thinking. Occasionally, Lone would pass by and see Hung holding the small white cloth, clutching it as if reliving some pain. When Lone called him, he would startle. One night, Lone accidentally walked past Hung's room. Peeking through the door crack, she saw him talking to someone invisible. He mumbled, "Please forgive me, I have nothing left." His voice was choked with agony, then shifted to a strange, hoarse tone. Lone was terrified and held her breath. Memories of Hung's possession flooded back, making her shiver. She feared Hung was more deeply haunted if the curse hadn't been resolved. In this urgent situation, Master Fong suggested, "Even if we haven't found the Tran family's descendants yet, we should still perform a mass for the exhumed remains. The goal is to appease the wronged spirits and prevent them from killing more people. We will perform the ritual in the courtyard, setting up an altar to invite 10 spirits." Master Fong solemnly told Mr. Tan, "We will commit to looking after their spirits, and then invite them to witness once we find the Tran descendants to officially return their ashes." Mr. Tan nodded, sad and silent. 2 days later, the La family prepared the ritual. Offerings of paper clothes, sticky rice, chicken, fruits, arranged on a low altar in the courtyard. Beside it was a small table holding the wrapped bones in a new white cloth. The evening wind whistled, making the candle flames flicker. Fearing death, the relatives only dared to stand at a distance and watch. A somber atmosphere enveloped them. Master Fong, dressed in ceremonial robes, holding a bell and talismans, recited prayers in a solemn, urgent voice. The chanting mingled with the rustling of bamboo leaves, increasing the unease. Mr. Tan knelt, bowing his head before the bundle of bones. With a trembling voice he confessed, "The La family admits its sin to the Tran family. Our ancestors' greed caused injustice, burying your remains. We sincerely repent now. We will build a separate tomb for you and offer a complete feast. Please punish us all, but only let the Tran spirits release our descendants. End this feud." As he finished, the candle flame flickered as if about to die out. The bell in Master Fong's hand rang out, long and resonant. Lone stood up, tears falling unexpectedly. A cold gust of wind swept through the courtyard, carrying a mournful wail, "Blood is still not enough?" The chilling scream made everyone's hair stand on end. People involuntarily took a few steps back. Master Fong quickly grabbed talismans, chanting incantations, but the wind continued to howl fiercely, making the cloth covering the remains flutter violently, as if an invisible hand was pulling at it. A cruel truth remained: the vengeful spirits had not yielded. Yet, the wind eventually died down, and the candle flame did not go out. The ritual was completed with difficulty. After the ceremony, Mr. Tan collapsed onto the brick floor, drenched in sweat. The words, "Blood is still not enough," echoed in everyone's minds, instilling fear of more deaths to come. Later that day, as the sun set, an old man with a hunchback, leaning on a cane, appeared at the gate of the La family's house. His beard and hair were white, his old brown clothes faded. No one recognized him, but when he asked a villager, "Is the head of the La family still here?" people whispered. Mr. Tan stepped forward, cupping his hands in greeting. "Who are you looking for?" The old man stopped, leaning on his cane, then softly said, "I heard there's big trouble at the La family's house. I am Tran Duck, a descendant of the Tran family who was persecuted years ago. I left the village and only now dare to return." Mr. Tan was stunned. Tran Duck was the very descendant Master Fong had desperately sought. He couldn't believe she had come herself, as if summoned by the vengeful spirits. Overjoyed, Mr. Tan quickly invited her into the house, offering tea. But Tran Duck waved her hand. "I don't dare to stay long. The La family has a reputation for harming my family, so I fear this place." Her voice carried a bitterness that couldn't be concealed. One of her eyes was cloudy, as if from an old injury or illness. She recounted how, years ago, her parents were labeled, landlords, and persecuted. She was only a 10-year-old child who fled, wandering for decades. She had only returned after hearing rumors of vengeful ghosts. Mr. Tan's eyes welled up with tears. This was the only lead that could help the La family atone for their ancestors' sins. But would Tran Duck agree to cooperate? Under the dim oil lamp that night, Tran Duck's lingering resentment softened somewhat, agreeing to help. "If there are truly remorseful people, I too wish to personally witness my family's remains being properly buried." However, she added, "But perhaps that's not all. Your ancestors took the lives of 5 of my family members." She paused, her gaze falling on Lone and Hung. She didn't continue, but everyone understood. The 5 lives curse meant 5 deaths. 3 deaths had already occurred. Would that be enough to satisfy the hatred? Lone lowered her head, remembering the lingering voice. Still not enough. Master Fong sighed, pressing his forehead. Perhaps the next ceremony must be extremely solemn. The remains must be buried in a separate grave in the cemetery, a proper tomb, and Ms. Tran Duck must witness it and officially accept her family's ashes. But even after all that, will the vengeful spirit stop? It was late. Tran Duck was assigned a room outside, the safest place. Everyone was anxious, hoping she would be protected. If she died, the complete resolution of the curse would be lost. Lone tossed and turned, tormented by the thought of who would die next. She remembered Hung's pale, terrified face. She feared he might be the next victim. Meanwhile, Mr. Tan and Master Fong discussed a grand appeasement and atonement ritual, inviting monks from the region to assist. Each night, a cold wind whistled through the roof tiles. Not a single star shone. The La family's house was like an isolated island in the sea of night, waves of vengeful energy crashing against it. In a hidden corner of the yard, near the well, a shadowy figure seemed to flicker. Long, flowing hair, a white robe, blank eyes staring into the house. Was it the remaining anger of the vengeful spirit, or the little ghost haunting them? The pale morning sun shone on Xuan Giang village, yet it could not dispel the gloomy atmosphere engulfing the La family's house. The family was busy with Uncle Kai's funeral arrangements, and also preparing for the interment ceremony of the Tran family's remains. Ms. Tran Duck's arrival last night was like a single ray of hope, offering a chance for resolution, but also stirring up deeper currents of hidden resentment. From early morning, Tran Duck slowly walked around the La family's house, leaning on her cane, observing. She looked at the old banyan tree, the well, the yin-yang tiled roof, and even the shed behind the house where Than had died. She shook her head, her eyes filled with old bitterness, but also a hint of empathy as she saw the desolation here. Deep down, she understood the horrors her ancestors had endured, yet now the La family's descendants were paying a bloody price, with continuous deaths. Mr. Tan approached, speaking softly. "Madam, my family is truly sorry for." Tran Duck waved her hand, cutting him off. "I don't want to hear apologies. I need to know what you will do with my ancestors' remains. And remember, deep-seated resentment cannot be easily washed away overnight." Her words made Mr. Tan bow his head, his heart tightening. Tran Duck then turned and walked back into the house, sitting down on a chair. Her cane tapped rhythmically on the brick floor, like a countdown, urging the La family to act quickly. Since yesterday, Master Fong had discussed with Mr. Tan and some relatives about building a separate tomb for the Tran family's remains, located in a neutral area of the cemetery, unrelated to the La family's graves. They would also organize a grand ceremony, inviting monks from the region to participate in a mass for the dead. Master Fong would assist with the offerings and prayers, and the apology had to be made clearly, with Tran Duck witnessing it. They also had to carve the Tran family's name into the new tombstone to acknowledge the La family's past sins and establish a common altar. With the plan set, everyone estimated the ceremony would take place the following afternoon. That morning, Lone and Hung went shopping for offerings. Incense, flowers, candles, and materials for the new grave, like bricks, lime, and cement. As they organized everything, the siblings were filled with unquantifiable anxiety. They feared the vengeful spirits would claim another innocent life before the remains could be properly interred. That night, the La family shared a quiet meal. Suddenly, Tran Duck appeared in the main hall, sternly stating, "I've been wandering around the rice fields until now, and I still feel a heavy malevolence. It seems the spirits are not at peace. They need more, much more." Lone and Hung were shocked. "Tonight, please rest, madam. Tomorrow, we will complete the tomb. We hope you will help us beg the spirits of your family for forgiveness." "I will witness it," Tran Duck replied, "but it's hard to say what will appease them. Vengeful spirits only seem to calm down when the root of the curse is truly cleansed." The words, "the root of the curse," echoed in everyone's ears. What was it? Not just the tomb, but something far more sacred. Many wondered, but no one dared to ask directly. Nevertheless, tomorrow's atonement was the most significant step they had taken so far. That night, as everyone was fast asleep, a sudden scream erupted from Mr. Lamb's room. Lone and Hung instantly sprang up, grabbing flashlights and rushing towards it. Mr. Lamb's door was wide open. The faint oil lamp still burned, and a strange, sweet scent of incense wafted out, making everyone shiver. In the flickering light of the flashlight, Mr. Lamb lay motionless on the floor, his mouth agape, eyes wide open. Hung rushed forward, placing his hand on his uncle's chest. No heartbeat. The entire family cried out in horror. "Uncle Lamb, Uncle Lamb!" Mr. Tan fell to his knees, sobbing. "Oh God, my brother!" Lone was so terrified her limbs felt weak. She knelt beside his body. Just a few days ago, Mr. Lamb was still muttering about his son. Now he was gone forever. Under the flashlight, Mr. Lamb's face was frozen in terror, his hands clawing at the ground, as if he had just witnessed a horrifying sight. Wails of grief spread through the house. Tran Duck, leaning on her cane, walked over, observing the scene, and sighed deeply. More of the La family have fallen. The fourth death confirmed the lurking curse, the fateful number 5. Neighbors, hearing the cries, rushed over. Many felt a chilling dread, shaking their heads and whispering, "The evil spirits are real, stay away." Immediately, everyone gathered in the courtyard, whispering their fears. They worried the vengeful spirits lingered nearby, ready to claim more lives. By midnight, the crowd dispersed, leaving behind a desolate space filled with sorrow. Mr. Tan sat by his brother's body, his tears dry. Hung stared blankly, his eyes vacant. Lone, the only woman still holding steady, took care of the arrangements. She called Master Fong to help, but he too was scared, now just sitting in a corner, muttering incantations, as if the events were too much to bear. "What more must be done?" Lone asked her father, her voice choked. Mr. Tan didn't answer, his eyes filled with sorrow, staring into nothingness. Perhaps he was thinking that one more death would complete the 5, and that he, Hung, or Lone would be the last, the ancient grudge. Tran Duck, however, did not sigh at this scene. She slowly walked to Mr. Tan and spoke. "Brother Tan, don't let this tragedy continue. Tomorrow, we will perform the ceremony not just for the interment of the remains, but we must publicly confess the La family's sins in writing, erect a stele of repentance, and do it before the entire village. Only with everyone's witness can the wronged spirits find peace. Mr. Tan raised his head, his eyes meeting hers. His heart ached. He knew her words were true. Before, he had only wanted to handle the matter quietly, but now the spirits had killed 4 people. There was no other way. He had to swallow his pride, publicly confess, sacrificing his last shred of honor to atone. "I will listen to you, madam," Mr. Tan replied, his voice devoid of life. Tran Duck nodded gravely, looking past Mr. Lamb's body, her lips thin. She hoped it wasn't too late. Preparing for the next day's ceremony, no one slept. Around 3-4 a.m., Lone, exhausted, dozed off. Suddenly, she heard sobbing next to her ear. A man's mournful, choked cry. She started looking around, but the room was empty. Yet the sobbing lingered, tormenting her, making her want to cover her ears, but it wouldn't stop. She began to cry too, both scared and pained. The images of Mr. Lamb, Thanh, Hoa, her deceased relatives piled up in her mind. The agony was overwhelming, suffocating her. If tomorrow's ceremony failed, she thought, a horrifying premonition, another person would die, completing the 5 lives. She trembled, praying for a miracle. The sun emerged from behind the bamboo grove, signaling the most important day for the La family. It was the day of the interment ceremony in the village. Many heard whispers that the La family was setting up a separate tomb for the Tran family, and came, curious and fearful, their murmurs like a swarm of bees. As suggested by Tran Duck, the ceremony was organized publicly. Besides the La family representatives, many village elders were invited to witness, and curious youths silently followed to see the ghosts, but also partly out of concern for Mr. Tan's plight. That afternoon, a simple canopy was erected on a vacant plot of land next to the village cemetery. A monk from a nearby pagoda was also invited. Master Fong collaborated with the monk, setting up a large table laden with offerings: incense, candles, flowers, fruits, sticky rice, chicken, holy water, and an incense burner. Behind the table, a newly prepared grave awaited, where the Tran family's remains would be officially interred. At noon, Mr. Tan, Hung, and Lone, accompanied by Tran Duck, slowly walked forward, Tran Duck carrying the bundle of remains wrapped in clean white cloth. The space fell silent, only the sound of the wind and a few whispered words. Everyone's faces were tense, knowing that 4 people had already died. Would there be another victim today? "I respectfully address the revered spirits, I respectfully address the villagers," the monk's voice began, opening the ceremony. Simultaneously, everyone clasped their hands in silent prayer. Mr. Tan knelt before the temporary altar, his face filled with remorse. His trembling hands held the written confession, detailing the La family's ancient sins and pleading for forgiveness from the Tran spirits. His voice was choked, broken by grief. "Due to our ancestors' greed, we brought calamity upon the Tran family, burying their remains in our ancestral tomb. Now, the tragic consequences are unfolding. I sincerely bow my head in repentance, accepting any punishment, only hoping the Tran spirits will release our descendants and end this feud." Mr. Tan's voice resonated clearly in the tense atmosphere. Some elders sighed, some simply clasped their hands and prayed. Tran Duck stood nearby, her eyes red, her heart still heavy. Yet, she hoped the ceremony would succeed, bringing peace to her relatives' souls. Master Fong personally placed the bundle of bones into a new, small wooden casket, carved with the words, "Tran family." The monk slowly chanted scriptures, the holy water bell ringing, its deep chimes spreading across the cemetery, blending with the rustling wind in the bamboo grove. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief as the ritual proceeded relatively peacefully. The casket was carefully lowered into the prepared grave. Some young men from the village gently pushed soil, bricks, and mortar around to build a proper tomb. Everyone anxiously awaited some sign, but until the very last brick was laid, everything remained strangely calm. A menacing black storm cloud suddenly rolled in, gathering rapidly in the sky, and cold rain began to fall, startling the crowd. The monk quickly recited a final chant. "The ceremony is complete. We invite the spirits to their new tomb. May this feud be resolved." Mr. Tan tried to suppress his joy. It seemed the interment had gone smoothly. Perhaps the vengeful spirits had finally calmed down, but as soon as he thought that, Hung suddenly screamed, clutching his head, his face pale, drenched in sweat. In the midst of the crowd, he stumbled and fell to his knees. Lone rushed to him. Hung groaned, his eyes wide, his body trembling uncontrollably. His voice was hoarse and broken. Still not enough blood. A deafening crack of thunder tore across the sky, shaking the ground. People around shrieked, "He's possessed!" Some old women retreated far away. Master Fang quickly raised a talisman, but before he could finish a single phrase, Hung swatted him away, sending him sprawling. Master Fang quickly resumed chanting, trying to appease the spirits. Seeing the murderous look in Hung's eyes, the possessed man swept his gaze across the crowd, then raised his hand as if to strangle Lone herself. The thunder boomed again and Hung's expression shifted drastically. He narrowly missed Lone. Lone screamed frantically, crying, "Please, please spare him. If you must take someone, take me. Please spare Hung." A whirlwind of wind swept through the courtyard, tearing apart the canopy. Villagers, scared, fled in panic, leaving only Mr. Tan, Lone, and a few brave souls behind. Everything was chaotic, like the eye of a storm. "Stop!" Tran Duck suddenly shouted, leaning on her cane, her voice echoing through the tumult. "I, Tran Duck, from the wronged family, officially accept my relative's remains. Don't harm any more innocents." Hung turned as if splashed with cold water. From his mouth, a dark, eerie sound emerged. "The wronged family still needs 5 lives, blood for blood." Tran Duck, her eyes red, trembled. "Enough! 4 lives have already been taken. You must let them atone. I don't want any more deaths." Hung growled, lunging towards Mr. Tan. "The head of the clan must pay. Blood!" Mr. Tan, horrified, stumbled backward, unable to react. It seemed in just another instant, the spirit possessing Hung would kill Mr. Tan, completing the chain of 5 lives. A few people shrieked, but fear froze their feet. "Stop, I beg you," Lone cried, her voice hoarse from behind Hung. Just then, a lightning bolt struck the ground near the corner of the canopy, a blinding flash of light that made Hung drop his hands. The vengeful spirit staggered as if losing some power. He collapsed, foaming at the mouth, convulsing. Master Fang quickly tied a talisman to Hung's forehead, chanting continuously. The monk also intensified his chanting, clanging his bell. The sound of the bell mingled with the pouring rain, creating a resounding tempest. Hung suddenly jerked, then his head lolled, completely unconscious. The vengeful spirit departed, leaving a faint mist that vanished into the wind and rain. The space fell silent, only the frantic beating of hearts and the pouring rain. Everyone felt as if they had just escaped a great catastrophe. Hung was still breathing, though weakly. "Hung is alive!" Mr. Tan burst into tears like a child, hugging his son. Lone knelt beside them, trembling, her tears mingling with the rainwater. Tran Duck, leaning on her cane, let out a sigh of relief. "Fortunately, perhaps the spirits have agreed to stop. We have officially acknowledged their remains, and you have offered atonement. 4 lives have been sacrificed. The 5th life, whether it would be Mr. Tan or Hung, thankfully did not become a reality." The monk's bell continued to ring, signaling the end of the ceremony. The vengeful spirits of the Tran family, with their final mysterious dialogue, seemed to have temporarily relented. No one dared to definitively say everything was settled, but the atmosphere had lightened, cleansed by the rain. Gradually, the villagers returned, seeing Hung unconscious. They helped carry him home. The Tran family's new tomb, recently completed, emitted a fresh scent of incense. Tran Duck returned to the tombstone, lighting another stick of incense, muttering as if conversing with the deceased. Lone whispered, her voice low against the pouring rain, "Perhaps from now on, the spirits will rest in peace, or at least no longer seek to complete the 5 lives to exact revenge." Mr. Tan returned home, his heart heavy with sorrow. He had lost his brother, 3 relatives, and Hung had narrowly escaped death. The 4 deaths, along with the lingering, still not enough, cry, were haunting. But it seemed that the public confession, the solemn interment, and Tran Duck's determination had prevented the final drop of blood from falling. Lone quietly brought warm water to her brother, her tears mixing with the rain. "My family has paid a heavy price for our ancestors' sins. It's a debt we must bear, but at least the 5 lives were not fully claimed." She hoped that fate at the last minute had spared them. Outside on the porch, the persistent rain, like crying, seemed to bid farewell to the departed souls. The quiet pain would linger long in the hearts of the living, yet somewhere there was still hope for a less tragic tomorrow. In the days that followed the interment of the Tran family's remains, Xuan Giang village returned to its usual tranquility. But for the La family, the 4 consecutive deaths left wounds that would never fully heal. The old house was still enveloped in a somber atmosphere. In many places, the lingering scent of incense had not faded. Nevertheless, everyone believed that the family's storm had calmed, now that the new tomb for the Tran family was complete. The 5 lives curse, thanks to the public confession ceremony, had perhaps not been fully claimed. That evening, Mr. Tan sat on the porch, quietly gazing into the darkness. Tran Duck had left the day before, leaving a message of hope that all was now peaceful. A few elders also visited, lighting incense and remembering the deceased. In his heart, Mr. Tan felt regret and sorrow intertwine. His hands were clasped tightly, sometimes trembling. All 4 Than Hoa Uncle Khai, Mr. Lam seemed to linger in his memories. In the silent space, a faint scratching sound suddenly echoed from the window of the altar room. Mr. Tan started. The scratching sound was exactly like the one he heard the day Than died, light and piercing to the listener's heart. He stared for a moment, then slowly rose and walked towards it. In the lamplight, he saw no creature. "Just my imagination," he reassured himself. But all that night, Mr. Tan couldn't sleep, occasionally muttering the names of the deceased. In the small living room, Lone was constantly having nightmares. She dreamt Mr. Lam knelt beside her bed, shedding tears, saying, "The grudge hasn't ended yet," and then his shadow vanished in an instant. She awoke in a panic, her heart pounding. Was something still hidden? Early in the morning, Lone brought warm water to Hung's room. Her brother had just recovered from the terrifying possession at the cemetery. For days, he had been bedridden, his face haggard, eyes vacant. But today, he seemed alert, able to sit up, leaning against the bed. "Hung, how are you feeling?" Lone asked softly. Hung smiled weakly. "Better, thank you, little sister, I'm lucky to be alive." "Don't say that, everything must be fine now. Since the spirits were interred, they haven't taken anyone else." Hung's face showed a flicker of uncertainty. "What about those whispers in my head these past few nights? I kept hearing someone say, 'It's not over yet, it's not over yet.' Did you hear anything?" Lone shivered. She admitted she had also been haunted by shadows and Mr. Lamb's voice, but she feared it would make Hung anxious, so she shook her head, gently patting him, trying to appear calm. "It's probably just psychological aftershocks. You've been through too much. It will pass." But her heart pounded with a nameless fear, a heavy silence hanging between the siblings. Outside, the familiar but eerie hoot of an owl echoed from the bamboo grove. The next afternoon, as Lone and Hung were preparing a meal, a relative suddenly rushed in, saying, "Mr. Tan collapsed outside by the shed." Both siblings dashed out to find their father sprawled on the ground, gasping for breath, his clothes drenched in sweat. Hung helped him inside as a doctor from the village arrived to examine him. Mr. Tan was diagnosed with a severe stroke, exacerbated by exhaustion and stress. After taking medicine, Mr. Tan fell into a deep sleep, but in his dream he muttered, "Don't kill my children, I accept the punishment. My son, my daughter, please spare them." Lone listened, her heart aching. Since the ceremony, her father seemed to have aged a decade, his nerves frayed to the extreme. She sat quietly, fanning him, tears streaming as she looked at his gaunt, sorrowful face. The horrific events had drained his life force. While tidying her father's bookshelf, Lone accidentally found the old genealogy book again. Curious, she opened it, remembering she had only glanced at a few pages last time. This time, she reached the appendix. There, she discovered another yellowed slip of paper, small enough to fit in her palm, tucked against the cover. It bore a mix of Han and Nam script. The writing was faded, but a few lines shocked her. "The Tran family child is still alive, raised in the La family house. Future generations must keep this secret. The La family could not bear children, so they adopted the Tran child as their own. The blood of the Tran family still flows within the La family itself." The words were like daggers to Lone's heart. Her eyes widened, her heart pounding erratically. It meant her ancestors had secretly adopted the descendant of the Tran family, and that child had been raised in the La household, bearing the La name, but in truth, carried the Tran family blood. She flipped back and forth, connecting it to the memory of the land seizure and the pregnant Tran daughter-in-law. Could it be that the child who didn't die was the son of the wronged family, who later grew up within the very clan of his persecutors? That past had been buried, no one daring to speak of it. This meant that within the Le family, there was a person who was a descendant of the Tran family. As dawn approached, Mr. Tan woke from his coma. He immediately went into the room, holding the yellowed paper, his voice urgent. "Explain this to me. What is this?" Seeing the paper, Mr. Tan's face paled. "I know now. Yes, it's true. One of the Tran children miraculously escaped death when their entire family was destroyed. Our ancestors kept the baby, raising it as their own child. The purpose was to deceive the public. The Le family stole land and killed the child's parents, then secretly raised him to erase their traces." Loan's eyes welled up with tears, her lips trembling. "So our ancestors raised that child. That child grew up married, had children bearing the Le name, but in reality carried the Tran family blood. From that day until now, the genealogy has remained silent about this story, telling the descendants it's a living secret, one that must be taken to the grave. No one is to ever reveal it, or the clan will be cursed and shunned by the villagers." The curse still loomed. Mr. Tan's mind reeled. Could it be that someone in our family, perhaps Hung, or even you, are descendants of the Tran family? Mr. Tan shook his head, his face bowed. "I only know one thing clearly. You are not my biological daughter, nor your mother's. Years ago, your mother had a difficult birth and lost the baby. After that, she couldn't conceive again. Your grandfather only told me to adopt Hung, saying he was our biological child. But in reality, he is the last remaining branch of the Tran family." This story, spanning generations, shocked Loan to her core. Hung is a descendant of the Tran family? Her heart pounded violently. Perhaps that's why Hung was once possessed to the point of almost dying, because he was a member of the victim's family, living under the name of the persecutor. This created a profound inner conflict, making the vengeful spirits feel conflicted. Loan, deeply upset, rushed out of the room, her heart pounding, her mind racing. It turned out that while the Le family thought they were atoning by building a tomb for the Tran family, a Tran descendant was actually living in their house. Hung was the living escape from the ancient crime and the present suffering. Could this be the root cause of the vengeful spirit's torment, hence the whispers? "It's not over yet." Torn between truth and pain, she didn't know whether to tell Hung immediately or keep it hidden. If Hung knew, he wasn't Mr. Tan's biological son, but a descendant of the victimized Tran family, how shocked would he be? In the altar room, the incense in the burners of the four deceased continued to burn faintly. Once again, Loan felt a ghost lurking in the corner of the wall. She quickly turned around, but no one was there. A chill ran down her spine, signaling another hidden storm about to erupt. News of the bloodline secret quickly reached Hung. He was distraught, sleepless all night, pacing his room, his mind in turmoil. In the morning, he refused food and water, stumbling into the courtyard like a ghost. "I'm not my father's biological son. I'm a descendant of the Tran family, who were harmed by the Le family's ancestors." Loan watched from afar, deeply saddened. She wanted to comfort him, but didn't know how to start. Mr. Tan was now bedridden, his breathing shallow, as if awaiting release after all the torment. That night, as everyone slept, Hung quietly left the house. He walked to the village path leading to the cemetery, where the Tran family's tomb had been built. The dense fog shrouded the area, creating a gloomy atmosphere. It was as if a whispering voice called to him, "Return, my child, our descendant, return." He knelt before the tomb, tears streaming down his face. "Ancestors, I am a Tran descendant. I have suffered greatly. Please let me atone on behalf of the Le family, for I also carry the blood of the Le family within me." The dim moonlight shone on the new tombstone, and the wind whistled through the stone carvings. He felt an invisible touch on his shoulder, but also deep sorrow. A voice like a breath echoed, "Is it enough? Oh, descendant of the Tran family." Hung then sobbed, "I don't know, I only wish for everything to stop. Please, Tran ancestors, rest in peace. Don't kill anyone else." The wind howled, circling him, and the bamboo rustled mournfully. Hung shivered, his mind reeling as if losing control. He stiffened, then collapsed unconscious on the cold ground. Early the next morning, Loan frantically discovered Hung was not at home and rushed to find him. Finally, she found him collapsed at the cemetery, his body cold and pale, though his pulse was still weak. She helped him home, calling for someone to rub him with oil and cover him with blankets. His soul had almost flown away. At that moment, Mr. Tan suddenly gathered his strength, got out of bed, and leaned on his cane, slowly walking to the porch. He was so gaunt that anyone looking at him would feel pity, his eyes sunken, his voice hoarse. "Lone, after you take care of the Tran tomb, I need to do one last thing." People tried to stop him, fearing Mr. Tan was too weak to bear it, but he waved them away decisively. In his subconscious, he knew that to completely break the curse, he might have to personally pay the ultimate price for the sins of the past. He couldn't avoid it anymore. Lone cried as she and a few other relatives helped him to the cemetery. The sun shone dimly through the gray, gloomy clouds. Mr. Tan stopped before the Tran family's tomb, gasping for breath, his every bone feeling as if it would break. Instead of offering an apology, he spoke, "I am Levan Tan. I accept responsibility. I accept this life to atone for my ancestors. Please, spare my children and grandchildren." As soon as he finished speaking, Mr. Tan slowly pulled a small knife hidden in his shirt. Hung, who had regained consciousness and followed, rushed forward in horror to stop him. Lone shrieked, "Father, don't do this." Mr. Tan stubbornly pushed them away, tears streaming. "The Le family's sin must be fully paid. My life is meaningless now. Lone and Hung must live to nurture the future. If I die, perhaps the vengeful spirits will stop." His trembling hand held the knife, about to plunge it into his neck, when Hung suddenly appeared behind him, snatching the knife. "Stop, father, don't kill yourself." Everyone was stunned. Hung, who was supposed to be still delirious at home, had somehow gathered his strength to come here. He grabbed the knife from his father, pushing him away, then cried out, "If I must die to complete the 5 lives, then I am the one who must die. I bear the blood of both Tran and La. I deserve to bear the curse for both sides." His words were like a lightning strike to Mr. Tan. He staggered, clutching his chest, drenched in sweat. "Son, you must not do this. I am the head of the main branch. I must bear it." Father and son stood in the cemetery, tears streaming. Lone collapsed, sobbing. The people around them fell silent, not daring to interfere. It seemed at this very moment, fate was deciding between life and death. In the sky, the sun suddenly burst through the clouds for a moment. The wind rustled through the gravestones, and a warm light seemed to shine down. An old, young figure knelt, whispering a faint, unclear voice, "Enough. I let go of the grudge. Enough blood." Hung shivered. He felt the cold hands that had so long gripped him suddenly release their hold. He no longer felt haunted by the ghost, and the ground seemed to warm beneath him. The chilling presence vanished. Mr. Tan also collapsed into Hung's arms, breathing a sigh of relief as if a heavy stone had been lifted from his chest. After a moment of stunned silence, everyone finally understood. The vengeful spirits had agreed to stop. All that was needed was for Levan Tan and Hung to truly be willing to sacrifice their lives to atone. That sincere act had resolved the feud. No more deaths were needed. The 5th death had almost occurred, but in the end, it did not. A few days later, Mr. Tan's health improved, though he was still weak. Hung had regained his spirit, though in his eyes, a lingering sense of guilt remained. He knew his identity as a Tran descendant, living under the Le name, a heavy burden of sin and social judgment that wouldn't easily be erased. Tran Duck, hearing that everything was settled, sent a letter, saying she had forgiven them and invited them to the Tran family's ancestral feast at the end of the year. In her letter, she urged them to live well, respect the truth, and no longer conceal sin. Lone stood before the porch, gazing at the clear blue sky. A gentle breeze rustled the banana leaves. She smiled sadly. The Le family's house was now less heavy, devoid of the sounds of laughter, covered in dust. But she believed that as long as they repented sincerely and lived righteously, the ancient spirits would not return to sow terror. Life still lay ahead. That night, a gentle drizzle fell after the summer heat. In the rain, Lone faintly heard a rustling sound outside the courtyard. She thought it was the echo of a ghost, but no, it was just the wind rustling through the bamboo. The air no longer carried the heavy scent of death. The curse had officially ended, or at least it had stopped at 4 lives, not claiming the full 5 as sworn. A few months later, while gardening near the fence, the Le family accidentally unearthed an old clay jar. Inside were pieces of cloth, fragmented bones, and a faded photo. No one knew who it belonged to. They could only guess it was a relic related to the ancient land dispute. Had the vengeful spirits truly found peace, or was the seed of calamity still lurking?